Many people lack confidence. Finding success is extremely difficult for the average person, and it's easy to feel defeated. But some individuals refuse to be discouraged and persevere no matter what. Today, we're looking at people who proved nothing is impossible. In 1964, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner beat the world record for sleep deprivation by staying awake for 264 hours, or 11 days, without using any stimulants. After 4 days, he had the delusion that he was a famous American football player winning the Rose Bowl. He also mistook a street sign for a person. On the 11th day, he was asked to subtract 7 repeatedly, starting from 100. He stopped when he got to 65 and said he had forgotten what he was doing. Yet later that day, Gardner held a press conference in which he spoke without slurring his words and appeared to be in excellent health. After his marathon, Gardner slept for nearly 15 hours and returned to a normal sleeping pattern within days. He broke a record in the process, but the teenage stunt has come back to haunt him. At 74, he offers wisdom about staying up past your bedtime. According to Gardner, about 10 years ago, I stopped sleeping. I could not sleep. That's why I kept calling this karmic payback for, my body going, okay, buddy. Yeah, okay. 11 days without sleep when you know damn well you need sleep? Yeah, let's try this out for size. I was awful to be around. Everything upset me. It was like a continuation of what I did 50 years ago. This proves that getting sleep is important, even if you are fully functional after a night of sleeplessness. Born in London in 1974, Stephen Wiltshire was diagnosed with autism at age 3. As a child, he had no speech. Attempts at communication were only sounds and murmurs. Today, the Stephen Wiltshire Gallery in the Royal Opera Arcade in London is a permanent exhibit of his wonderful drawings. Stephen's impact has been so pervasive that in 2006, Queen Elizabeth II named him a member of the Order of the British Empire in recognition of his contribution to services in the art world. Beyond the specifics of his craft, Wiltshire is able to draw an entire landscape from memory after only seeing it for a handful of seconds. Wiltshire got his first commission at age 8 and has been on a meteoric trajectory ever since then. Wiltshire's work has been the subject of many TV documentaries. Renowned neurologist Oliver Sacks wrote about him in a chapter on prodigies in his book An Anthropologist on Mars. In 1989, Wiltshire appeared on the cover of You magazine with actor Dustin Hoffman, who had portrayed autistic savant Raymond Babbitt in the 1988 Oscar-winning film Rain Man, which Wiltshire considers to be one of his favorite movies. Wiltshire continues his art practice to this day. Recently, he has been hired by a number of municipalities in Singapore to document their cities. If you think math and science are difficult subjects, try doing arithmetic after a serious brain injury. Math theorist Jason Paget suffered a brutal attack and not only lived to tell the tale, but he also became a genius. Early in life, Paget was an extremely superficial person. I was very shallow, he laughs. Life rotated around girls, partying, drinking, waking up with a hangover, and then going out and chasing girls and going out to bars again. In 2002, 2 men attacked him as he was leaving a karaoke bar. They brutally beat Paget, leaving him behind, unconscious with a severe concussion. When he awoke the next day, he was seeing lines and shapes around and inside of everyday objects. He almost immediately began drawing detailed mathematical diagrams, but this wasn't without a price. After the attack and subsequent brain injury, he developed severe post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and depression. Through all of this, he also struggled with agoraphobia that was strong enough to force him into hiding for over 3 years. After seeing a therapist, Paget got his mental illness under control and began making thousands of intricate drawings, all of which use extremely complicated mathematical principles. His drawings are now worth thousands of dollars. It's a cliched, abstract thought. Do we see the same colors as everyone else? For one Australian-born artist named Concetta Antico, the question is not hypothetical. Antico, who lives in San Diego, California, has more receptors in her eyes to absorb colorful light, enabling her to see and paint the world around her in a different way to most people. The average person can see approximately 1 million colors, whereas tetrachromats have an extra cone class in their eyes for color vision that dramatically increases their range up to a potential 99 million. Called tetrachromacy, tetra meaning 4 and chroma meaning color, she has a 4th cone or receptor in her eyes. She has been studied extensively by Dr. Kimberly Jamison, a scientist at the University of Irvine in California, ever since. Dr. Jamison calls Concetta the perfect storm for this rare condition. She says, the mutation that I like to call a gift is believed to be present in only 2 to 3% of the world's population. My color vision provides me the ability to see very subtle color variations, color differentiations that would not be able to be seen with normal vision. It makes my natural visual world so beautiful and brings unbelievable color options to my eyes, allowing me to paint what I see so that others can see it too. Stephen Hawking is one of the most famous examples of resilience in the face of adversity. He was even memorialized in the wildly popular 2014 film Theory of Everything. At age 21, while studying cosmology at the University of Cambridge, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. He was not expected to live for more than 2 years. Completing his doctorate did not appear likely. Yet Hawking defied the odds, not only attaining his PhD, but also forging new roads into the understanding of the universe in the decades since. As the disease spread, Hawking became less mobile and began using a wheelchair. Talking grew more challenging, and in 1985, an emergency tracheotomy caused his total loss of speech. A speech-generating device constructed at Cambridge, combined with a software program, served as his electronic voice, allowing Hawking to select his words by moving the muscles in his cheek. In 1988, Hawking catapulted to international prominence with the publication of A Brief History of Time. The short, informative book became an account of cosmology for the masses and offered an overview of space and time, the existence of God, and the future. The work was an instant success, spending more than 4 years atop the London Sunday Times bestseller list. Since its publication, it has sold millions of copies worldwide and been translated into more than 40 languages. Summiting Mount Everest is considered one of the greatest forms of human achievement. However, these days the climb has been extremely commercialized, and wealthy patrons can pay for local Sherpas to carry their things and provide them with supplemental oxygen all the way to the top of the mountain. But this was not the case for famed Italian alpinist Ronald Messner. In 1978, he and Austrian Peter Habler were the first to climb Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world, without the use of contained oxygen for breathing. And 2 years later, he completed the first solo ascent of Everest, also without supplemental oxygen. He was also the first person to climb all 14 of the world's mountains that exceed an elevation of 26,250 feet. According to Messner, I was in continual agony. I have never in my whole life been so tired as on the summit of Everest that day. I just sat and sat there, oblivious to everything. I knew I was physically at the end of my tether. But regardless, Messner continued and became one of the most respected climbers in history as a result. Jessica Cox was born on February 2, 1983. The first time her parents saw her, they were in shock. Jessica had no arms. Doctors could not explain why she was born that way. All previous pregnancy tests showed nothing irregular. However, neither the parents nor the doctors could do anything. Nevertheless, Jessica's parents never wanted to exclude her from regular activities. They wanted her to feel like a normal child. Jessica Cox went to a regular school, not a special needs school. She would do everything that all the other kids did in their childhood. Often alone, she would imagine herself as a superhero, using her power of flight to take people up above the clouds one at a time. Soon this dream became a reality, and Cox became a licensed pilot, being the first armless person to become a certified pilot in aviation history and get a black belt from the American Taekwondo Association. Cox has earned herself 2 Guinness World Records. Josh Sundquist is a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and Paralympic ski racer. He has spoken across the world to groups ranging from Fortune 500 companies to inner-city public schools to the White House. Josh's journey began at age 9 when he was diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer and given a 50% chance to live. He spent a year on chemotherapy treatments, and his left leg was amputated. Doctors declared Josh cured of the disease at age 13, and he took up ski racing 3 years later. He trained for the next 6 years, and in 2006, he was named to the U.S. Paralympic ski team for the 2006 Paralympics in Torino, Italy. A multi-season athlete, Josh is the only person in history to ever have been named to both the U.S. Paralympic ski team and the U.S. amputee soccer team. Since then, his first book, Just Don't Fall, has become a bestseller, and he speaks at events all over the world. Freediver Herbert Ness is one of the most important figures in diving. The deepest man in the world has kept and holds many world records in freediving. The practice of freediving involves diving as deep as possible without an oxygen tank, meaning that you are totally dependent on your own lungs for survival. Despite having only recently learned of freediving, he broke the world record after diving 702 feet below the surface in 2007, and he has been a hero of the freediving community ever since. Tragically, Nitsch almost lost his life in 2012 while attempting to break the world record for freediving. He explains that the recovery was extremely hard on his mental health. It was not an easy road. During the course of rehabilitation, I went into depression, wondering if I would ever get back to normal life again, to the point of contemplating jumping out of the window to end the mental chaos and physical limitations I endured. Fortunately, I realized that the second floor of the rehab center would not do the trick, so I gave up rather quickly on that idea. Despite the slow progress and initial depression, I kept my motivation alive and made the decision to do anything to bring my life back to what it used to be. This may come as a surprise considering Walt Disney is debatably the most famous animator of all time, but the same men who created such cartoons as Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and built Disneyland did not always have an easy life. While working as a newspaper cartoonist, Disney was fired for having a lack of imagination. Of course, the editors at this publication were kicking themselves, as Disney skyrocketed to success in the following decades,